So we're going to continue with how to relate to the Buddha. Okay? So, in line with our refuge precepts, when we take refuge in the Buddha, then we don't take refuge in any kind of worldly gods. Okay? So, of course, that can mean a Judeo-Christian god. It could mean Brahma and Indra. It could mean spirits, seances, these kinds of things. So the Tibetans have a lot of these kind of spirits and gods in their pantheon. And so what they say is you can make offerings to these beings and request help from them, but you don't take refuge in them. Okay? Because you'll see, like when we do the offering of the remaining soak, we give it to different living beings. We offer to pretas and so on. So, but we don't take refuge in any of those other beings. We keep our refuge very clearly in the Buddha, because the Buddha has eliminated all the defilements and culminated all the virtuous qualities. So why give up that? Yeah. And this actually fits into, this whole discussion that's been happening about the protector issue and so forth, because there's been some people that have elevated a worldly protector, who was not a Buddha, up to a very high status. And then His Holiness is very concerned that then that, it interferes with proper taking of refuge in the Buddha. Yeah, and then people emphasize too much in their practice propitiating a spirit for worldly gain. And so that's part of his concern. Okay. Then in terms of more practical things with our refuge in the Buddha, then not doing business with Buddha statues or thangkas for the purpose of making money. Yeah, so in other words, just having these things, selling them with the attitude of how can I make the most money off of them. Again, like I keep saying, as if you were selling used cars. You don't treat Buddha statues that way. So keeping paintings and statues, just seeing them as material objects, kind of, oh, look at my beautiful statue, painting, whatever. When I first went to Nepal before I became a Buddhist, I really liked the Tibetan rice prints, of the different deities. And we got a lot of them and put them all over, the house. I thought they were just so cool. I was really attracted to them. But my motivation was not just attraction to them. It was, I'm going to have all these cool things from Nepal in my flat. And my friends are going to come over and go, wow, you're so adventurous. You went all the way to Nepal and India. Wow. Yeah, so there's a bit of that in there. Okay. Then putting statues, paintings, and so on the floor or in a dirty place. And again, I'm really alarmed when I see that happening here. People storing paintings in the closet, on the floor of the closet. Even when we're hanging things, people putting them on the floor to prepare them instead of lying them on top of something. So we really have to pay attention to this and take care of this. Also, we have statues that still need to be filled, so the heads are wrapped, but we should keep those statues clean. We don't let statues stay in a dirty place and collect dust. I remember one time when I was in Tibet, 1987, and mostly the places we stayed, the altars were very nicely kept, but at one little village we stayed, it was filthy, and I really, in my very limited Tibetan and extended gesturing, kind of said, no, you've got to keep the images of the Buddha very clean and treat them respectfully, not because we're worshiping statues, that, we're certainly not idol worshippers, but those remind us of the Buddha. Yeah, they represent the Buddha's qualities. So for people who have a difficulty understanding that and the difference between idol worship, I ask them, well, when you travel, do you take a picture of your family with you? Yes. Well, when you look at the picture of the family, does it remind you of your family and your care for them? Yes. Well, that's the same way here. Do you take the picture of your family and, leave it around and put a coffee cup on top of it so it has a ring on it, or, put your dirty shoes on top of it? No, you don't do that because it represents the people you care for. So it's the same kind of idea here. Okay? Okay, so using a statue as a paperweight, putting things on top of statues, except like I told you the story of the person who was walking and it was raining, so he put the shoe on top, and the person who came later when it wasn't raining and took the shoe off. So, okay, things like that. Then destroying statues, destroying stupas, opening them up, knowing that often people put precious objects inside and you want to, steal whatever is inside. So desecrating things, taking offerings, things that have been offered to the Buddha, keeping them for yourself. So as I always say, taking down the food offerings just at the time for dessert, or putting the food offerings up there, from now until the time of dessert, as if you just needed a place to put them before you can eat them. You weren't really giving them. Okay? Taking offerings given to the Buddha. So, for example, lights or cloth or jewelry, things like that people out of faith put on the altar or offer to the Buddha, then taking those for our own personal use. Okay? If there's extra things that have been offered to the Buddha, then if you want to make something else for the Buddha out of those materials, that's fine. Or if the Sangha together as a whole decides, let's say, if somebody, offered diamonds to the Buddha and we didn't want to leave them out because they would get stolen, we could potentially sell them, but then we use the money to do something else for the Buddha, maybe build a different offering or get some, nicer, more statues or decorate the place more or something like that. But we don't take things offered to the Buddha for ourselves, yeah? And so that's what gets very confusing. Some temples put right by the altar the donation box. So people feel their motivation is I'm giving to the Buddha, but then the people running the temple take it for their own use, yeah. So that's why we don't have our donation box right under the altar, yeah. If people offer money on the altar, that's for the Buddha, and we'll spend it for the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. The donation box is for the Sangha, the monastic community, or in other places, so that there's no confusion in people's minds who they're offering to. Okay, so selling statues to make a living. So buying the statue isn't negative if you want a holy object for your altar. But if you then turn around and sell it to make a profit, then, that's clearly negative. And then saying the Buddha's body is ugly. So, there may be certain statues or paintings that are not well done. So we say the artistry isn't so great. But we never say, the Buddha looks creepy or something like that. Yeah. we don't criticize in that way. And similarly, when people are painting the Buddhas or the different deities, they need to be very careful and paint them in a very beautiful, attractive way. Yeah, and I know for me, I feel slightly uncomfortable when sometimes magazines and books will have a picture of a Buddha or one of our teachers on the front, and then the title of the magazine goes right across their forehead. I just feel uncomfortable with that, It's like, wait a minute, you don't print things on the Buddha's forehead or something like that. Okay? And then, of course, using statues as collateral. I don't think people do that very much now, but I think probably in, Asian societies, your statues were your most valuable things, so you want to, refinance your hut, then you, use the statue as collateral. So we want to avoid doing things like that too. Yeah. I mean, as long as you have it not directly on the floor, but if you have other things higher in the closet, yeah, okay, if the closet's otherwise totally empty, at least it's not on the floor. Of course, if you can put it higher, it's nicer, but, if you can't put anything in the walls, then what to do? Yeah. Anything else?